This is Sports Takes with Nate Skates, Christmas edition. Still no spin, just straight sports. Writing a little Christmas cheer on today's episode. Oh, Little Town of Bethlehem. This is a version done by my good friend Ryan, Lo-Fi Rye. You can find him on Spotify or YouTube. All right, on Thursday's show, what did I tell you? Alabama and Miami were going to win, right? Wrong. That's definitely not what I said. That is the hazard of being a prognosticator, predicting college football games publicly. Today we're going to talk about those games and talk about what I was right on, what I was wrong on, which was half of my picks. However, first, what I want to talk about with the playoff is, thank goodness we don't have to have those atmospheres again for the quarterfinals, right? I mean, who would want that? Who would want 100,000 screaming happy fans at home? Nobody wants that, right? Yeah, what I want to talk about is look at the atmospheres we had this past weekend in Norman, in College Station at Kyle Field, in Oxford. See the drone show for the Ole Miss game? Thought that was pretty cool. So the question I want to ask is, I think it's great to have those opening round games at home. Love it. The question I want to ask is, why are we giving home games and the tens of millions of dollars of economic benefit that come along with that? Did you see that in this article that came out? Said they were expecting $50 to $75 million in positive economic influx to Oxford, Mississippi because of this playoff game. Who knows what it'll actually be, but clearly a lot of money coming in. Why are we giving that benefit to seeds 5 through 8, but we are not giving that benefit to seeds 1 through 4? The teams that really earned it, the teams that really earned home field advantage. I'm great with seeds 5 through 8 getting home field advantage in the first round. Why are we not doing that in the quarterfinal? I mean, look at Georgia. If you're Georgia, you've gone to both 12-team playoffs as a top 4 seed. You haven't had a home game yet because of the way the playoff format is. If you're Georgia, you've got to go play at the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. No matter who won that game between Ole Miss and Tulane, they are closer to New Orleans than Georgia is. No matter what, Georgia is the road team. Its fans are farther away from that game than Ole Miss or Tulane. If you're Ohio State, you've got to go all the way to Arlington, Texas. Now, that's not exactly a short trip in the car for Miami either, but if this had been Texas A&M, you're looking at a disadvantage instead of an advantage that they should be getting. And I understand we want to save the big 6 bowl games. Well, the problem with that is, and I want to save the 6 bowl games too, but the problem with that is once you did a 12-team playoff, you were writing off the bowl games. I mean, the bowl games are involved in the playoff, but it all really loses a lot of its importance because of the 12-team format, and not every bowl game is involved in the format every year anyway. But to me, the way this needs to be done is why are we prioritizing the bowl games? Yeah, I know money, but what we need to do, the way to fix this to me is one of two things. Since we're not going to get rid of the 12-team format, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute, the way this should work is the bowl games should have the opening round rather than the quarterfinals, semifinals, finals, or say you want the semifinals and the finals to be neutral site. Okay, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Well, then make the opening round and the quarterfinals home games, make the semifinals and the final bowl games, and you'll just swap them out every year. There's no reason for the bowl games to have the quarterfinals. I don't like that format. I don't think anybody likes that format, except maybe the bowl games. Now, speaking of that playoff format, I have been firm since the concept of an expanded playoff was being discussed. We did not need a 12-team playoff. I said that on an earlier episode. There was no reason for a 12-team playoff. There are generally 2 to 6 teams. A lot of times it's more like 2, 3, 4 who have any real business in the playoff or who really have a shot to win the playoff. Wouldn't it have been a better playoff if we had Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, Texas Tech in the playoff rather than James Madison, Tulane? You know, did we really need some of these teams in the playoff? No, we didn't. I personally felt like the only logical expansion, the only thing that really made any sense for the sport, would have been to go to 6 or 8 teams. If you had 6 teams, then you have an opening round. Top 2 seeds would have had byes. If you had an 8-team playoff, wouldn't have been much different than the 4-team playoff, just with 8 teams. There was a lot of complaints, some of it unjustified, about the quality of football we saw this weekend. It is what it is, guys. You wanted 12 teams. And the worst part about the 12-team format to me has always been these automatic qualifiers. And the way it worked out this season, automatic qualifier meant James Madison and Tulane. Did anybody in the United States of America really believe that Tulane and James Madison had any chance of winning these games? No. Not unless you're a James Madison or Tulane fan. I mean, I'm no expert. You heard me on Thursday. I said Tulane has no shot to win this game. The only chance they had was for Ole Miss to be in such chaos because of Lane Kiffin that maybe nobody's focused on what they're doing. In the first game, we broke this down. In the first matchup, Ole Miss won that game 45-10. Tulane didn't score a touchdown till the 4th quarter. Ole Miss had 548 yards of offense. So what happened this game? Well, Ole Miss had nearly 500 yards of offense, won 41-10, and Tulane didn't score a touchdown till the 4th quarter. We already knew what was going to happen in this game. Tulane had the 124th rated pass defense. Ole Miss is one of the best passing offenses in the country. We already knew how this was going to end. We'd already seen this movie earlier in the year. Tulane did not have any business in the playoff. They had a good season. Good for them. They were not a playoff team. James Madison. I mean, come on. It was 27-3, and did anybody at any point in that game, when you're watching that game, did you ever say, oh, wow, James Madison really has a fighting chance? No. When I was watching that game, within a couple minutes, it was just so obvious that Oregon was going to score virtually every time they had the football. And yes, I know, late in the game, James Madison scored some more, made it look more competitive. It wasn't competitive. It never was competitive. I've heard a lot of argument in favor of the automatic qualifiers, saying, well, there were blowouts before the automatic qualifier, or Tennessee got blown out last year, Oregon been blown out before. Yes. Again, I'm in favor of a 4-team playoff, maybe a 6 to 8 team playoff, not a 12-team playoff. There were blowouts in the 4-team playoff. My argument is not, oh, those teams never got blown out, but automatic qualifiers like James Madison and Tulane do. No, my argument is even some of those teams get blown out. Even some of those teams aren't up to snuff with the best team that season or the best 2 teams that season. What I'm saying here is we maybe didn't know going in those teams were going to get blown out. We already do know these teams were going to get blown out. Why are we putting in more teams to get blown out that we already know are going to get beat horribly. It would have been better for Tulane and James Madison to have been in a decent bowl game against another top 25 team than to go to Oxford and Eugene and get pummeled in games everybody knew they were going to lose. That doesn't really benefit anyone. I'm not saying I want the playoff to be restricted to Power 4 teams. If we're going to have a 12-team playoff, if we're going to have a 16-team playoff, which is entirely possible because there's a huge push to expand the playoff even further, water it down even further, I think teams like Boise State last year should have a chance to work their way into the playoff. I'm not saying ban all non-Power 4 teams. I'm saying there should not be automatic qualifiers that even possibly can put a team like this in. I'm not sure what we want to do with conference championships, whether you want to get rid of automatic qualifiers all the way around or how you want to do it. And I'm not going to hash that out here. But we have to get rid of this. We have to get rid of a situation where you get an automatic bid, especially like I keep picking on Tulane. Tulane was not a 12-0 dominant conference champion. They were 11-2. They got blown out by Ole Miss. They got beat by a score of 48-26 against University of Texas San Antonio Roadrunners. That's not a team that needed to be in the playoff, okay? So we've got to do something about the automatic qualifiers. All right, enough of that. Now we're going to break down these games. We're going to start with Miami and Texas A&M. Going into the game, I thought this was going to be one of the closest matchups of the entire playoff. I really had a hard time even making a pick in this game. So when I made the pick, I said that the game was going to come down to which of these turnover-prone quarterbacks who were going to be pressured by very good pass rushes turned the ball over more. Whichever team's quarterback turned the ball over less, that team would win the game. I thought Carson Beck would turn the ball over a little bit more than Marcel Reed, largely because of the pressure of the environment. I was wrong. Carson Beck had 0 turnovers. Marcel Reed had 3 turnovers. Carson Beck's team won the game. He didn't have a stellar day. He didn't have to. He's got a great defense, and he didn't turn the ball over. So, I mean, looking at that game, it went kind of how I expected it to. I know there was a lot of criticism or shock that the score was so low. I didn't think the score was going to be that low, 10-3, but I was not surprised at all about the defensive nature of the game. We said going into this game that these are two very good defenses who get a ton of pressure, and they have some elite pass rushers. And you saw that play out in the game. I mean, Miami's defense had 7 sacks. The duo that we talked about on Thursday's episode, Ruben Bain Jr. and Akeem Mesidor, Ruben Bain Jr. had 3 sacks. Akeem Mesidor had 1.5 sacks. I mean, Miami was all over Texas A&M. And so, I mean, none of that was really unexpected. And Texas A&M did a really good job on Miami and their passing game. And Miami was really trying to get it to Malachi Toney. You know, we talked about that last week. He's the guy for Miami. And they were really trying to get him the ball, and Texas A&M was really keying on him. Here's what I didn't expect going into the game. We had talked about Texas A&M's pass rush, and we had talked about their number 1 in the nation third down defense. Miami was only 3 of 12 on third down. Beck had just over 100 yards passing. Those things held true. What I did not expect was that Miami would focus on attacking Texas A&M's weakness, which was rushing defense. I mean, they didn't have a terrible rushing defense, but that was clearly the Achilles heel of the defense. Mark Fletcher completely took over that game. He had 172 yards rushing on 17 carries. That's over 10 yards per carry. In the second half, Miami just decided we're going to ride Mark Fletcher, and he won them the game. I mean, this is something I don't understand about other play callers I see all the time. If you have a running back or you have a group of backs and they're gaining a lot of yards, they're having a lot of success, keep running the ball. Run the football. It's a gimme. Hand the ball off to one of your best athletes on the whole team. Let them get 4, 5, 6, 7 yards, maybe more at a time. Let them wear down that defense. And I see so many play callers. You've got a guy who is clearly just hot, and he's gashing a defense. And he gets 8, 10 carries in a game, and you go whole stretches of the game where you throw it on first, second, and third down. I don't understand that. If I had a running back or a group of running backs and they're really having a lot of success against the defense, I'm going to keep running the football. I don't mean every play, but pretty much until they show me they can stop it, I'm going to run the football. And that has a cumulative effect of wearing down that defense. And that's something Miami was willing to do in the second half. They said, hey, this is working. Keep giving it to Fletcher. And it worked. They didn't say, hey, we're going to just keep throwing the ball because that's what we want to do. No, they said, this is where we can get the yards. We're going to run the football. More play callers need to do that. I would have liked to have seen them give Fletcher more carries in that game. And ultimately, the final touchdown, which I thought this was such a great moment in the game. So Malachi Toney, late in the game, has the big fumble. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry for this guy. I mean, he's been such a good player all year long. He'd had a good day. He had the big punt return. And to fumble it like that just hurt to watch for a guy like that. But then he gets to come back at the end of the game, scores the winning touchdown. And before that, you had seen his fellow players. You had seen guys like Fletcher just really lift him up on the sideline. And they were really focused on building him up and saying, hey, we need you. And he came up really big at the end of the game, full redemption. I thought it was just a really great moment. I mean, obviously, you didn't like it if you're a Texas A&M fan, but I thought it was a really great moment as an unbiased observer. So Miami will go on and take on Ohio State in Arlington, Texas on New Year's Eve. So that's going to be a really interesting matchup. We'll talk about the next round matchups on Tuesday. Switching to the Alabama-Oklahoma game. This game was a total flip of the game earlier in the year in November. In the game in November, we talked about this last show. Alabama had outgained Oklahoma. It was because of turnovers caused by the Oklahoma defense and a missed field goal that Alabama lost that game. In this game, Oklahoma, with the struggling offense, outgained Alabama. What ultimately decided this game was a few things. One, to me, the main thing was in the second, third, fourth quarter, Alabama's defense took over the line of scrimmage. They went from really getting dominated in the first quarter to they were putting pressure on John Mateer every play. I mean, he was running for his life. And the Alabama defense ended up with 5 sacks. This is a guy who's very difficult to sack. He's very quick. He scrambles well. It's not easy to get him on the ground, and they did it 5 times. And that pressure helped contribute to some of the mistakes you saw Oklahoma make. Mateer had the mind-numbing, ill-advised throw for the pick 6. You had a situation where Mateer gets out of the pressure, rolls, makes a great throw, guy drops the ball. You just had situations throughout the night, early and throughout the game, where Mateer either misses a wide open guy A guy drops the ball. There were just a lot of mistakes, and mistakes define the game for Oklahoma. I mean, talk about special teams. I mean, I don't want to pick on these guys, but the punter and the kicker, I mean, just killed Oklahoma. You've got a situation where the punter just drops the ball deep in their own territory, just drops it. That results in a turnover with Alabama getting the ball deep in Oklahoma territory. You've got the situation late in the game, fourth quarter. Punter shanks a punt. Alabama ends up with the ball in like the 35-yard line. And then, obviously, the kicker, Sandell. You've got the Lou Groza Award winner, supposed to be the best kicker in college football. Obviously, Georgia fans were going to say Peyton Woodring's the best kicker in college football. The guy misses what should have been a chip shot field goal for a guy of his caliber in the fourth quarter. Then, to me, this was as much a coaching issue as it was a kicking issue. Oklahoma gets the ball back. They're trying to get 10 points in just a couple minutes. So you got to move quickly. I understand Venables making the decision to kick the field goal rather than try to score the touchdown. You're going to have to score the touchdown at some point anyway, but I understand wanting to save time, not run out the clock, kick the field goal. What I don't understand is it was really windy. Your kicker had just missed a field goal that had to be in his head to miss a field goal in that situation. You decide to kick the ball on 3rd and 5. I know you want to save time, but that is a 51-yard field goal in a very windy stadium for a guy who just missed a much easier kick in a very serious situation. You put a lot of pressure on your kicker to make a 51-yard field goal on 3rd down. I would have at least tried to get a few more yards. Yes, you may have run some clock, or hey, get the first down. But what you did was put your kicker in a situation, it's already in his head, he's got to kick a 51-yard field goal with all that wind. To me, that was a really bad decision. And it doesn't matter if you save a little time if you don't make the field goal. You have to have the points. So I would have at least tried to get a little closer, if not gone ahead and gone for the touchdown. You're going to need it anyway. So anyway, I thought that was a bad decision. On the positive side, guys who made good plays, I thought Deion Burks for Oklahoma, wide receiver, played a phenomenal game. I mean, not just the touchdowns. I mean, he's making great catches, staying in bounds. So he played phenomenal. I thought a lot of the Alabama players played really well. Brooks, their wide receiver, had 2 great plays for touchdowns. So there were a lot of good performances in this game to go along with the mistakes. But this is something you saw it in Miami and Texas A&M. There were a lot of wind in both those games. I don't want to say whether it was the wind or the pressure, but in both those games, you saw kickers really struggle, miss a lot of field goals. And some of those very obviously were impacted by wind. But I also think this is the college football playoff, and there's a lot of pressure on these guys. So I think we're going to see if that comes up again later in the playoff. As far as the Ole Miss Tulane game, I mean, I don't have a lot more to say about that. It is what it is. I'm happy for Ole Miss. I would have felt really bad if after the whole Lane Kiffin saga, they lost in the opening round to Tulane and their season ended. So I was happy for Ole Miss. Here we go again. Another rematch. I know the College Football Playoff Committee doesn't want to do the seeding based around avoiding rematches and things like that. I really wouldn't mind if we did a little bit of that. We didn't really need to see Tulane and Ole Miss again. We didn't really need to see Oklahoma and Alabama again. And now we're going to see Georgia and Ole Miss again. So here we go. You know, we'll look at that matchup more on Tuesday. But I was rooting for you in your first round, Ole Miss. I definitely won't be rooting for you this time. The Oregon-James Madison game, I don't have any more to say about that. So we're through the first round of the playoff. The second round is coming up, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. We're going to talk about those games next week. I'm also going to talk about whether or not the bye week is a good thing or a bad thing. There's a lot of talk about, is the bye week actually hurting these teams, or is it helping the teams? So we'll talk about that on the next show. We'll talk about all these matchups. But with it being Christmas, I want to shift gears a little bit. We talked about with the playoff how I feel like it should be exclusive. So how I feel like it should be only the best 4 teams, or the best 6, or the best 8 teams. And we shouldn't just include everybody. Now I want to talk to you about something that is not exclusive. And that is what that song, "O Little Town of Bethlehem," is talking about. I believe that the most important part of Christmas is in the name, and that is that God sent his son, Jesus, as a gift for everyone. Jesus gave up everything he had in heaven to come be born as a baby on earth for us. And there is no greater act of love, of charity, of kindness than God sending his son for us. And I believe that the message of Christmas is a message of hope, a message of inclusivity, of salvation for all. No matter what you've done, no matter who you are, God sent his son for you. I firmly believe that. And so on this Christmas show, I didn't want to go a show without telling you what I think Christmas is really all about. I really think the greatest gift you could ever receive is Jesus Christ in your life. So whatever your beliefs are, we welcome everybody on the show and anybody to comment, be a fan. But I felt like it would be a mistake on my part to not share what has been the greatest gift in my life, a gift that I have certainly not deserved or earned, to not share that gift with all of you. So I hope this Christmas that you will, whatever your beliefs are, you will consider that. And while you're enjoying lots of football, that you will take some time with family and enjoy it, think about what it's about. And I hope you'll tune in next show. We're typically doing a show on Tuesday and Thursday. Thursday's Christmas. Won't have a show this Thursday, but we will have shows coming out later. There should be a show on Tuesday, a playoff preview, if you will. So if you'll tune in to that, we'd love to have you. So Merry Christmas, everybody, and we'll see you next week.